This morning, State Rep Steve Toth gets emotional during our interview. The personal reason why he wants to strengthen penalties against sexual predators and a political prediction for the House. Ted Cruz leads again in another Texas poll. Can Colin Allred create a winning strategy? Joe Biden, Donald Trump face-to-face this week for their first presidential debate. The Roundtable on what they will be watching for. Arlington Mayor Jim Ross on high-speed rail, Dallas's decision, and the popular corporate headquarters leaving his city. And an MIT study says Texas should join the national electric grids. Austin Congressman Greg Casar with legislation to do just that. But is he willing to compromise anything to get Republicans on board?
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Jason Whiteley. Politically, lots of new developments this weekend. Let's start with the headlines here. Ted Cruz is widening his lead against Colin Allred. Cruz now leads by 11. The UT Politics Project in Austin did this survey. Jim Henson, the director there, says Allred has, quote, yet to make an impression on a lot of people. Less than 5 months until Election Day. The southern border as a political issue is red hot right now, not just with Republicans, but also Democrats. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton trying to shut down the popular Annunciation House in El Paso because it gives shelter to asylum seekers. Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star Soldiers now shooting pepper balls at immigrants. And President Biden giving protection to undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens. All of it evidence of how important the border is right now to both parties. And a bitter, years-long dispute in Houston finally appears to be over. Houston City Council approved a massive settlement to end a pay dispute with firefighters. They've been working without a contract there since 2016. The firefighters will get back pay and a pretty significant raise. Houston's going to have to sell bonds to pay for this, but Mayor John Whitmire is getting a lot of credit for making it happen and fulfilling that campaign promise. Let's start this morning with a new guest here on the program, State Rep Steve Toth, a Republican from the Woodlands, in an emotional interview this morning. Upset like many Republicans after a megachurch pastor in North Texas admitted publicly to a relationship with an underage girl years ago. Toth this morning with the personal reason why he wants to toughen penalties for sexual predators. Representative, welcome to the program here. You and your team already at work wanting to increase penalties for people convicted of sexual crimes against children. What do you have in mind?
I just don't think our local district attorneys are clued into the law, because any DA could have brought charges against someone from the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts or a church for that matter. They really could have brought criminal charges against them for doing this, because this is in the criminal code. It's not in the civil code, it's in the criminal code. But I want to raise the penalty so that our DAs understand that this is there and they've got to start enforcing it, and they've got to start prosecuting and indicting people that do this. Number one. But number two, I want to make sure that we understand that you in the future, you can't be indemnified by some kind of insurance that your board carries against any kind of civil action against the board. We want to bring total clarity to the fact that you do this stuff, you cover it up, and there's going to be criminal and civil consequences. The civil consequences can include lawsuits of hundreds of thousands of dollars and wipe you out.
What sparked your idea to include boards in this?
I've got a staff member whose daughter was violated many years ago. And the person that did it was at a local ISD, and the ISD let this person go. And then they went to another ISD and they did the same thing again. And that ISD let them go. And I don't know if the ISD board ever knew about it, but I know that somebody in authority at those schools knew about it, and they failed to let other people know, which led to the eventual crime against my friend's daughter. And this crap has to stop.
What was your reaction to the accusations against Robert Morris in North Texas? And what do you think should happen to him now?
Unfortunately, he can't go to jail. But his board members should be sued. He should be sued for frauds. That they are frauds. And evidently, from what I understand, and this is going to go before a grand jury, but one of the board members from that original church that employed him when he was in his 20s is part of the church today that he works for. So this guy has known about this for years, and he should be exposed for what he did. He should go to jail for it. He should absolutely go to jail for it. And so should Robert Morris if there's a possible way to do that. But I think it's beyond the statute of limitations.
Let's talk about politics in the Texas House of Representatives. Does Dade Phelan get reelected as Speaker?
I think he has a really good chance of doing it. But at the end of the day, too, he's going to have a really hard time to get there without Democrats. And I think what this is going to come down to, I know Tom Oliverson has made it really clear that he's promised those of us that he's looking for our support. He's saying that he's going to go to the floor to fight it. Well, if that means he goes to the floor and fight it, then that means that Dade Phelan is going to need at least 12 Republicans to join all the Democrats. And if he does that, he will be radioactive, and any Republican that votes for him will be radioactive. So this is going to be a tough fight for him. It's going to be a hard slug between now and January when this comes about.
Despite who becomes Speaker, do you think there are enough votes right now with what happened in the primary to get school vouchers passed?
If Dade Phelan becomes Speaker, we will not get parental choice passed. He owes his win. He got 1,400 Democrats to cross over in the runoff so that he could win his election, and he only won by 366 votes, which means he would have lost if he hadn't got anti-choice Democrats to vote for him on election day. So we get that, we understand that, and we think it's an uphill battle for us to get school choice if he becomes Speaker.
Representative, good to see you. Thank you for the time.
You bet. Great to be with you.
All right, let's bring in the roundtable to talk about the politics of this. Bud Kennedy is here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I am Mitra is with us from Austin at the Texas Tribune. Bernadine Steptoe, political producer at WFAA in Dallas. Bud, Steve Toth, of course, a member of the House Freedom Caucus, laying out some political predictions there. Where do you think he stands on that?
Well, I think he's right when he says that Dade Phelan, if he's reelected Speaker, choice won't pass. If he's reelected as Speaker, it'll probably be with a majority of Democrats reelecting him. And so there is a chance that choice wouldn't pass. As far as his comments about all the people he wants to arrest, all the people he wants to face charges, they've made cases like this about failure to report. Grand juries threw them out in Midland against 5 employees of Midland Christian School. Grand juries want to ignore these cases, so DAs don't want to bring them.
Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bud. As far as Phelan, it's going to be a matter of kind of the lobbying before January, and Phelan and his allies are going to remind folks of what they've passed in previous sessions. They've touted as some of the most conservative sessions, so that's going to be the message that they're going into it with. And so that's going to be the message that Phelan carries if he wants to remain Speaker, and he's definitely got some folks who are going to be helping him on that front.
And as Dade Phelan has said, Bernadine, that we pass conservative issues. His allies would say that as well, too. But politically, it looks like we're going into the same fight that we saw last session come January.
And I think that what the state representative was doing was sending a message to those Republicans who are inclined to vote with Phelan. But from the beginning, everyone knew that it would be a fight. But let's get back to this issue with this child, because he claims that they're going to do something in the legislature to increase penalties. And my question is, why not? Why haven't they done anything yet? But I don't want to leave that issue, because that is a very, very, very serious issue.
Yeah, it's an emotional issue, too. We don't have a lot of emotion that comes out like that on these interviews here, but that was an interesting one. A lot more ahead here, including this. When we come back this morning, an MIT study with a new perspective on why Texas should join the national electric grids. Austin Congressman Greg Casar joins us from D.C. with his bill to do just that. And Arlington Mayor Jim Ross's reaction to high-speed rail, and Dallas's decision to put the whole process on pause. Inside Texas Politics, back in a moment. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. A study out this month from researchers at MIT confirmed what many Texans already thought. Connecting the state to the national electric grid would reduce the likelihood of power outages here in Texas. This is more evidence for Congressman Greg Casar, an Austin Democrat, who has a bill in D.C. right now to make that a reality. Congressman, welcome back to the program here. ERCOT CEO now says by the end of the decade, Texas is going to essentially need twice as much electricity as we use now. Can Texas generate that in the next 6 years, or can it get citizens to not use as much in that time?
Look, we need so much more electricity than we have today, and Texans saw that clearly during Winter Storm Uri, and I hope that we don't experience blackouts this summer. The best way, the one bill that could have prevented 80% of the blackouts that Texans suffered during Winter Storm Uri was my Connect the Grid Act. The MIT just put together and released a study showing that this one measure, connecting Texas to the national grids, would have had an enormous impact. So of course, we need new power plants. Of course, we need to weatherize and improve our existing grid. But by doing just one thing, connecting our infrastructure to the rest of the country's infrastructure would solve an enormous part of the problem.
Congressman, is there anything you would be willing to compromise on to get Republicans to sign on to this?
I am absolutely ready to work with Republicans to get to wherever it is that we need to get to. This is not about trying to layer on new regulations. This is not about a partisan divide, one side or the other. It's about common sense infrastructure questions. And really, the folks that were challenging on this aren't lawmakers on one side of the aisle or the other. It is a small number of people, economic interests, that made billions of dollars off of Texans suffering during the winter storm. They owned some of that power. And it's because we weren't connected to the other national grids, they were able to jack up the price to whatever they wanted. Those are the folks that we have to be able to say no to and go do this common sense infrastructure bill of connecting Texas as a grid. And I'm ready to work with any Republican that's willing to just say no to those small number of big economic interests and yes to this common sense infrastructure bill. It's also, honestly, a free market bill. It's saying that we should be able to import and export power and electricity in and out of the state, just like we do oil and gas.
Congressman, good to see you as always. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much.
Now to Arlington, right in the middle of a fight over high-speed rail. The North Texas Council of Government says the region needs it to move people around a rapidly growing metroplex. But Dallas decided to slow down the process to study it more. This morning, Arlington Mayor Jim Ross took our call at the U.S. Conference of Mayors in Kansas City. Mayor Ross, good to see you again here. High-speed rail between Dallas, Arlington, and Fort Worth has been in the news here. Dallas put it on hold, wanting to study this more. What's your reaction to that decision?
You know, hey, look, I support every community to do what's best for their community. I think it's well within Dallas's rights to make sure that any money that they're spending in high-speed rail, it benefits Dallas. I get that. I think high-speed rail is something that is necessary to regionalize transportation in all of North Texas. We are rapidly becoming the third largest metropolitan area in the United States. High-speed rail is going to help, in my opinion, connect everybody in a very, very good fashion.
If Dallas kills high-speed rail, what would that mean to Arlington?
Well, I don't think Dallas can kill high-speed rail. I think, it's the Regional Transportation Council that's really looking at this. This is a federal state initiative and a North Texas initiative. I think this is something that we want Dallas to be a part of this. They are obviously a very important part of the metropolitan area. But I don't think they can just kill the program. And I think with the feasibility study that is being done right now, I think there's going to be some some discovery of the importance, the economic importance of high-speed rail for all of North Texas.
Arlington got some news that it's not used to getting recently. Six Flags announced that it's moving its corporate headquarters to Charlotte, North Carolina when it merges with this other company here. How significant is that for Arlington when all we hear about Arlington is growth, growth, growth?
Yeah, obviously we don't like to lose a corporate headquarters in any way, shape, or form. But I understand during the negotiations of the merger that, a lot of the executives from Cedar Fair were from the Charleston area, and they're looking at moving over there. I get that, as we have one corporate headquarter move out, we've had numerous more move in. So we have a lot of new North American headquarters coming into town. So believe me, we're keeping that growth machine going. And when it comes to corporate headquarters, we're still moving the needle forward.
You're in Kansas City right now with 200 mayors. The Conference of Mayors is going on right now. What's the most serious issue facing cities across the country right now?
Oh, Lord, where do you start? There are a number of issues that we're dealing with collectively here. Homelessness is one of them. I just walked out of a session here dealing with homelessness. Mental health is another issue. Infrastructure is another issue. Crime reduction is of course important to all of our communities. So all of those issues are being addressed here.
Mayor, good to see you again. Safe travels back to Arlington.
Thank you. Take care now.
Reporters Roundtable is standing by when we come back.
This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to talk about the headlines, the political headlines here. Bud, Ian, and Bernadine all back with us here. Let's talk about the latest poll from the UT Politics Project, Bud, down at UT Austin. Ted Cruz still up by double digits, 11 points ahead of Colin Allred. The clock is ticking. Allred's already spent a lot of money. Does he have any shot now of trying to close that?
Well, this is the greatest challenge to Colin Allred, is that he's from Dallas. Most of the Democrats in Texas live along and south of a line from Houston to Austin. The Democrats don't even know who he is. He did not get 30-some% of the votes in the primary. He went to Gutierrez. So, Colin really he's from the little blueberry and the tomato soup, as they say, the Dallas County, and he's trying to find Democrats across the state.
How does this poll, and obviously they're taking their own polls, Ian, but how do these numbers change Allred's strategy as we go into November?
Well, he's got to build name recognition across the state. Because he won the primary with before, without going to a runoff, that kind of changed a little bit. But he's got this ramp up time now where he's got to build up name recognition across the state. As Bud noted, he's known in Dallas area where his district is, but he's going to have to build up, and he's raised quite a bit of money. National Democrats are actually showing some interest in this race too. So he's going to be having to pump his message through TV markets across the state. He's gonna have to build up recognition and then, kind of build a divergence between him and Senator Cruz.
He does have to build that recognition, Bernadine, but his campaign has been going since May of last year. He's had more than a year and a lot of money already spent.
Well, and one would think that he knows where he should be at this point in the campaign. But if I don't think that anyone who watches Texas politics would think that his strategy of coming together to do things would work, because Texas is a divisive state. You have the Republicans on one side, you have the Democrats on another side. So he's going to have to do something, and as far as we know, because we don't know what's inside his campaign. And we don't know if they feel that they are where they need to do at this point in the campaign. But if you look at the numbers, something is not gelling.
Yeah. Surely this isn't where they want to be in the campaign. But the other big news this week is going to be the first presidential debate. Joe Biden and Donald Trump face to face on Thursday night. What are you going to be watching for?
Well, 90 minutes. We want them to remain vertical and ambulatory during the entire debate. I think that's the most important point. The most important thing to see is whether Donald Trump throws everybody a curve and remains calm and focused during the debate. If Donald Trump is capable of making a serious point over and over again, delivering the sound bites that he's good at, then the Democrats' argument that Donald Trump is a dangerous off the wall candidate blows up. He could be calm and make his points and win.
But Joe Biden has to not have any of those freezing moments that have gone viral all over social media. He has a tough time ahead as well, doesn't he?
Right. And, and while he's going to try to focus on policy, that's what a lot of folks are going to be kind of watching out for. So he's, as he's practicing in his debate prep, he's got to make sure that he is kind of sticking to policy and talking about, he's going to be facing some tough questions across the board, whether it's about immigration, whether it's about, the wars that are going on and how he's handled these things. And so he's going to have to be really on top of that, because Trump is certainly going to bring that up.
And both of the campaigns have agreed on what happens with this. Obviously, Bernardine, it's not the Presidential Commission on Debates that put this together. So they've agreed to the rules ahead of time. What do you think we'll see?
But who believes that former President Trump is going to adhere to rules? Because that's not what he does. And I think that most of the people will be watching Biden. Because you know former President Trump, you know what he's going to do. And now one thing that will play to Biden's strength is the fact that they're going to mute the mics where Trump won't be able to just go ballistic on him. But everybody is going to be watching Biden, not Trump. We know what Trump does. We know how he is.
And the question like Bud brought up is whether he, goes off script, which he does so well. But how this is make or break for Biden here.
This is important for Joe Biden. He has to focus on. He has to be able to have a good soundbite the way Donald Trump does. He has to be able to make his point clearly and concisely. Sometimes that's difficult for Joe.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching as well. We're back next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics. We hope to see you then. Take care.